No one cared who I was till I put on the gloves. I don't even know why I wear them at this point. I probably had a good reason for it at some point, but no, I no longer do. But I'm going to continue doing it. I like to gaslight my audience, chat. All right. So the title video probably gave it away, but I am reviewing comics again. I don't know why. I'm not a comic book person, but I like to, for my little Gumroad Locals videos, I like to have fun. I like to explore new things. Okay. I like to experiment a little bit, because if it was like a big lolcow thing, I would want everybody to have it, but it's not. I owe my audience something for subscribing, right? Something special. So I figured I'd do weird stuff, avant-garde, gloves behavior, and try to make something entertaining from it. I've been told anyways that influencers are personalities, not necessarily their content. I don't know if that's true, but I got comic books. As I explained in my stream, I received 5. Actually, I'm going to show you all this. These are still unopened. I have the entire Butch Killigan extended fucking universe here. This is an alternative color. I'm going to leave that in the wrapping. I have a spare that someone sent me. Don't know if that was Sven or somebody else. And then I have another thing. I guess I'll just keep those wrapped up so I have like a proper full set of this, huh? Like a deck of playing cards. I briefly showed these on stream, but I'll go ahead and cover them now. These are like cards, I think. Yeah, they're like cards. They have like stats and stuff. And then there's like different ones. I probably have the entire set. Then I have a little thank you from Sven for buying his books. And I'll get into my feelings about the state of the industry as I, an outsider, have interpreted it, okay? And just one other thing. I got these very nice posters that you can see here. And I mentioned that this one was very anime-ish, but I will tolerate it. I'll tolerate its existence, okay, for the pursuit of the arts. As I have said on stream, I believe art is very important. I believe that art is downstream of culture. And once you have no art, you have no culture. So that's why the liberals won and took over the whole world, is that they started making movies and music and shit, and now they just run shit. That's how it works. That's what I genuinely believe. So in my pursuit, I put little coins around where the camera records, so I don't accidentally capture stuff. Ooh, out of frame, out of sight, out of mind. Film magic. I have talked. Sorry, I am recording with my microphone with my camera in front of me, so it's kind of awkward. But I've talked at length about this. I did like a quick review of it for locals. By the way, my system for these reviews is so far going to be sticky notes. I put sticky notes throughout the comics, and you'll get to see my handwriting. The main thing that I had to say about Butch Killigan 1 is that Sven is a very good artist. This page in particular just stands out in memory. Like when I started this up, like, oh, I have to show people this crazy thing, because it's also a reference to a famous Dutch painting, I want to say, that when he studied, I don't know if he studied art like formally in like a university or if he just saw this in person, but this literally hangs in like a Dutch museum of art. What this is referencing here. And then there's another thing where it's like, this is also just unnecessarily fucking good and would take an unnecessary amount of fucking work to accomplish. And then this page, which teases the next book, is precisely as advertised. Believe it or not, this is not a extension of the truth. He already knew. He already had a vision in mind for the next book. And this advertisement was not a fake. So I'm going to set that aside because I've already talked about this. I'm going to talk about Butch Killigan 2. As you can see from my sticky notes, I have a surprising amount to say. I'm also having to watch my camera here. My camera is not made for video recording, so it will turn off if it gets too hot. But I have it reduced all the way down to... Oh, I have accidentally increased it a little bit. Oh. I want to drop it down to 24 frames, I think. No, wait, no, it's back to manual focus. It was fine how it was before. God damn it. I hate the internet. I have no one but myself to blame, chat. Anyways, let's, I'm gonna do a 2-for-1 with this review, by the way. I decided I would not do a full Gumroad for, this. I will have things to say about this, but I'll get to that in a second. For now, we're just gonna focus. Spoiler alert, my sticky note already gave it away. My first criticism, but let's just talk about something that I liked. I actually liked this. The thing is, I don't know what you're supposed to get out of a comic book. Like if I sit down and I'm looking at a comic book, it's basically a foreign media to me. It's like, am I supposed to get a good story out of it? Am I supposed to appreciate the art? I imagine that it's supposed to be some combination of the two, right? Like in a movie, what do you want to get out of a movie? Well, ideally, it has a really compelling story with characters that you remember and a universe that's interesting to you, that has some sort of stickiness to it that you keep after you stop watching it. Like Fight Club, my favorite movie of all time. I quote Fight Club all the fucking time for no reason. There's just so much about it that's permanently jammed into my fucking brain. So with a comic, it's like, well, what do I hope to get out of this? And with Sven, it's a lot of interesting visuals. I want to call this like a flow of consciousness. I want to say it really feels like Sven had a idea of what he wanted to portray. And he has many different weird sets with many different weird visuals to accompany them. And it's not extraordinarily cohesive as it moves from thing to thing. But I feel like I feel like I'm insulting it when I say that. I feel like you would agree that's probably insulting and makes him sound like a poor writer. However, the tranny comic that I'll be reviewing next has given me some new perspective on what exactly a flowing plot looks like in a comic. So it would be unfair to Sven to say that this is something that doesn't flow. It definitely does. It hits a lot of interesting points, but it just doesn't. I don't know where it's going, and I don't know where it's going in a bad way. Whereas if I was watching a movie and there's all this stuff happening, it was all very interesting. You're along for the ride, you enjoy it, but then you're like, I wonder if this is going anywhere. I wonder if there is that's a good way of putting it. I wonder if there is an intentional sequence that we're heading towards, or if this is just sort of like, I want to make fun of these things. And that's basically what this is a criticism of modern culture, which sounds, calling something a cultural criticism sounds like an insult in and of itself these days. One thing I would like to point out, this is very important. There are no advertisements in this anywhere, which I have grown to appreciate. So, right off the bat, Butch wakes up in a hospital having been comatose. There's something that doesn't make sense. Obviously, he would have lost all his muscle being comatose for 10 years, but it sets up the sort of Walking Dead Season 1 intro where Butch is now in a world that he doesn't understand, as opposed to the first comic. And this is kind of like where it's like, I don't really know if he knows where he's going with this, but he's supposed to be like a cop in the first one, and then he becomes comatose, and now he's in a world he doesn't understand. And they actually do a really good job of, well, I say they. He is the writer, he is the artist, and he is the letterer. And I make several comments about lettering here in a second throughout this. One thing I didn't leave a note for is that he actually does like the anime cutesy style very well, despite being a Western artist. This whole sequence makes fun of the AI workflow and how anything that you try to do involving a corporation these days involves talking to a fucking robot, and how sodomizing that is, literally sodomizing, because there's a Buscemi-faced dildo that is supposed to be a vital measurer, supposed to monitor his heart rate and stuff through his anus. And he decides to put a Steve Buscemi face on it to make it extra creepy, which I appreciate. Um, and there's a reference to that song from what's his face, the really famous guy that sings. It was in Squid Games. Okay, Frank Sinatra. um, okay. There's lots of stuff. I don't want to like just go through the entire comic. I feel like I'd be doing a disservice to him. So I'm going to try and skip through to my notes. I tried to do myself a benefit as much as possible by leaving my notes. Lettering. Okay, so we have the robot here, and the robot has a different kind of lettering than the rest of the thing. Now, believe it or not, he did this lettering all by himself. He did not need to hire somebody to do the lettering for him. It's really nice. So there's like a Janny bot that he hijacks through these sequences. And I would like to draw a comparison here in a second with the Janny bot. Lots of stuff in the background, like attention to detail, prescribing life one beat at a time. Everybody's ticker in their body is a subscription service, which I find amusing because it feels that way, doesn't it? His idea, his art of like a Zogbot, I guess would be the closest word for it, is like, these are all these people in line and they're complaining about bullshit ailments. And they're also they have artificial wombs. He very specifically calls out that these are not just Zogbots in the healthcare system. They are very specifically artificial wombs on a man. So, it's sort of nonstop like that, where he just goes through and makes fun of all these different nightmares. There's a fight sequence where the Troons recognize that he's not wearing an augmented reality seeing device, and they get mad at him because it's ruining their perception of reality because he's not participating in it. So those people on the other page, this is their avatars, like in the augmented reality. And it was immediately, obviously, just kind of flipping through this, what was happening, because Sven does a good job of using the artistic medium to immediately, just like, I appreciate how he even like dumbs down like his art style, like this, like how this looks amateurish. And this is exactly what you'd see in like Second Life. Or not Second Life, what do they call it now? VR chat? You got VR chat, you have like the fucking, she looks like Bulma from Dragon Ball, and she's like, this is exactly how people get low quality OC as their virtual reality avatar in VR chat. So I there's so much that he does with the medium that elevates it. I'm not trying to just like sell it. I am kind of bitter about something I'll get to. I'm not trying to just actually sell you on this, but I did actually really enjoy this more than I thought I would. The fight sequence that was building up to just immediately terminates because they run out of credits for like elevated heart rate. Like their heart rate is limited, throttled in their body unless they pay for it. Of course, Butch as a meat man is not limited by such things. There's a very funny sequence here where the robot becomes likable, and I leave a note here to talk about Vito's robot. If you remember from my review of Vito's comic, which I don't have a physical copy of, because I would not allow such a thing to exist in my house. Vito's robot sidekick in that is extremely annoying and not funny, and very Joss Whedon-esque. And this is what I'm looking for. And he just insists that this is like a sidekick that I have to give a fuck about, and it sucks. But in this, the robot sort of accompanies him through his trip to escape the hospital, and you end up liking him just because he's sort of like a not insane character. Everybody else has lost their fucking mind, so he's so normal that you're like, oh, I like this. And there's even a thing where it's like the robot expects to be destroyed by this madman who's like tearing his way through the hospital. And instead, Butch spares his life, and then he immediately repays him by leaving. He just abandons him. And what's funny is that he actually exits the story. So it's this weird thing where the robot exists. He's one of the only like relatable, likable personalities in the whole story moving forward. He sets up that he's going to be like a sidekick, and then just immediately gets rid of him anyways. And it almost feels like a jab at Vito, but obviously Vito's not important enough that anybody would make a jab like this. And I think his comic came out as, of course, I think both Butch Killigan comics were pitched, advertised, sold, distributed in final form before Vito got his one. And they're both as long or longer than Vito's comic. This is exactly as advertised. This is like the frame from the first book at the advertisement ending. And as you can see, it's exactly as advertised. You expect that once he's out of the madhouse hospital, the corpo hell hospital, that the streets are going to be better or safer, but no, of course not. Reality itself is a fucking nightmare. I'll even say lettering right here. You can see that there is Zalgo text in this comic. Oh, look, there's another Steve Buscemi. He really likes Steve Buscemi. Sven excels at horrific imagery. He's like a H.R. Geiger or something. He like knows. He has like these memes that he likes to pull out that just make things creepy. Here we have a Troon committing 41% for asking for sweet release as he splatters on the ground. And then there is a Zalgo text. I'm just pointing out here that Sven, all by himself, without a professional letterer, was actually able to do some pretty exciting lettering here as a font appreciator myself. At this point, he finds his wife that he's looking for, and his wife is like a chain-smoking hoe, which is actually my one thing I really don't like about this, and I'll get back to it in a second. I just kind of skipped through that because I feel like it would be a disservice to anybody who actually wants to read this to go through what is the main thesis of it. There's a brief aside where Butch has caught a sort of parasite that is... Sorry, there's a deer outside my window staring at me. What the fuck you want, buddy? There's a sort of a thesis going on where Butch has like a parasitic computer that wants to commit suicide. And the computer is trying to make Butch commit suicide with it. And obviously he's able to avoid being killed. But it leads into an interesting sequence about hope versus despair. Which obviously I, as a positive poly and positive poly advocate, really appreciate. I did like that sequence because this comic is so fucking dark in terms of like its actual themes that a little bit of levity like that and saneness helps a lot. If everything is just crazy and everything is just miserable all the time, the book kind of the story in general of any kind of story, regardless of if it's a book or a visual novel or a movie, it stops mattering because you end up developing an immunity to its things. Anyways, I like this part. There's a bunch of African American youth in the city, and they explain that there's a Mao Zedong mosquito that will suck on your neck unless you have a vaccine. And there's lots of little commentaries like that. It's not necessarily too important to the plot, but it's just his vision of a nightmare world, and he does a very good job of painting it. Let's see. So then at some point he decides to break it. Oh, he gets really upset at the vending machine that's selling illegal hard drugs. And then he breaks it. And of course that summons the cop, who immediately shows up and addresses him by citizen. So that's gender neutral, even though citizen's a gender neutral word. And here we have our law enforcement. So let me prop this up a bit. You can see here that law enforcement gets its bag of shit from Sven as well, which I appreciate because you know how they is in the UK. So there's a sequence here. Most of this is just making fun of the ineptitude of the law enforcement, which is a theme that I approve of. And it resolves itself with Butch returning to his policeman roots and violently assaulting the gender non-conforming criminals, proving that violence is actually a solution to many problems in life. And that is sort of how it closes out. So, as I said, I don't know where it's going with this. And that's sort of my big criticism is that while there's lots of stuff in it that I like, I feel like it needs to be a little bit more grounded in terms of understanding the motives of the main character. Because if you have a story about hope in the middle, and his realization is that he wants to live for revenge, which I don't actually think is a very good motivation to live. If you have a story like this, you need like a very grounded motivation. And there's a part in the middle that I kind of skipped over where I'm not sure if this is a joke or like a masquerade or what, but he meets his wife that he's chasing after, and that he establishes in book 1 that he's really in love with. And she's like a loser, and he immediately loses interest in her and walks away. And I maybe I missed something, but if that is actually her and he's just like done with her, that's really sad. And because she was supposed to be pregnant, and I guess it was like based on the advertising, you would expect that that would be like a huge part of the story, but it's just like it moves on. So it needs a little bit more grounding, I think, to be a comprehensive story. There's lots of stuff in it that is funny that made me laugh or sensibly chuckle, but that was not one. And I felt like, oh, well, once he meets her, it's like, well, then what's the fucking point? You know, what does he hope to accomplish? What does he want to do? In the first, it was like he's chasing after his wife or trying to protect her or whatever from like the nightmares. And then the second's like, oh, he meets her and then is like, okay, I want revenge. So he goes and beats up a gender non-conforming person in a ballerina outfit. So I'm not entirely sure where he's going with it. There's lots of creativity on display. I just wish it was a little bit more focused. But I liked it a lot, and I liked it much, much better than Vito's comic. So it's not just that he's a indie artist. This is a very, let me just show you. Here's the both books. This is a very thick comic, in part because this is printed on the collectible softback, but you can see here, not something to scoff at. Quite a lot of book that you get. These were each like 25 euros, I want to say. Now, let me show you something for comparison. This is the DC comic by the tranny that I bought. Let's go ahead and do the sandwich view here. You see that? You see what you're getting? Guess what costs the most? The tranny book by DC. I guess what I'm paying for is this piece of shit right fucking here, as if this means anything to me. And not only did this cost more, the DC book cost more than Butch Killigan, this special edition that I had to buy because I had already burned all the other copies, this special edition costs more than both of them combined with some change left over, and is by far the worst product. Let's get into that. Let me take this. Let's start with the first thing that you've already seen. Too fucking dark. Let me just turn the lights out real quick. Because I don't... So there's something about how I have my lights positioned here that's doing it a service. Like, without the proper lighting directly overhead, you cannot make out what is going on in this fucking cover. It is like pure black. The way that I have it set up is actually doing it a huge service. Let me see if I can turn it. Oh yeah, if you don't get the light directly on it, like this is what you see. It's like pure fucking black. Same with this. It's like unless you have the light right on it, this is what it looks like when I pulled it out of the box. I'm just like, what the fuck? Note here, tranny Felker Martin Spokes? No, it was Gretchen was his name. So this is the cover. Already I don't like it. This is the alternative cover, I should say, is done by a Japanese guy, I think, or a Korean guy, Kyoyong Edam. That's the variant cover. And that's important because the main characters are very black, very American. And this guy decided to make the female look like an anime girl with like a little bit of color, a little bit of like that chocolate color to her. But in the actual story, she's properly black. First thing I noticed, let's open this up. So the variant cover, and this was a surprise to me because it's not the way that it is on the softbacks that I bought before with Sven, is that it seems like the variant covers are just stapled onto the actual book. Like this is the regular cover, I believe. I'm pretty sure. And then it's like the variant cover is just like a stapled on top. By the way, this was advertised as hollow foil. I was expecting something really bright and colorful with like things that you only see at certain angles, like a hollow foil Charizard card or something. And instead it's just like, this dark somewhat glossy piece of paper that's stapled onto the actual book. Like they're too, like it's cheaper for them, I guess, to print like 1,000 comics and then staple the 10 variant covers onto individual ones as opposed to binding them differently. So that's a huge pain in the ass. DC obviously committed to equality. We have here DC gets pumpkin spicy this fall with steamy variant covers. So it's kind of like goon bait, but check out what the goon bait is for. Like you have like a girl in like comfy clothes. Don't get me wrong, women look really good in comfy clothes, but like it's not properly cheesecake. That's cheesecake. But then there's like half of these are dedicated to like male sexual exploitation, which is like, I guess that's who's buying DC these days, right? So that's very funny to see. Okay, now this, like, I opened the book, I didn't read it, but I was just kind of like checking it out when I first got it. The fucking progressive ad inside the book, the very first page of the actual book is the fucking progressive ad with fucking Flo. Flo's a DC hero, apparently. And then not only is this a progressive ad, it's an ad for Superman the movie. So it's like, not only do you get the ad for progressive, it's an ad inside something I paid $70 fucking for. It's completely unacceptable. And I complained a lot about this with Black Comic Book Man, and I had the exact same fucking issue with Black Comic Book Man. He put an advertisement for his wife's Etsy business or whatever the fuck in the middle of the comic. Completely unacceptable. I paid $45 fucking for Black Comic Book Man's comic, and then I paid $70 for this piece of shit, and the first thing I see is a fucking ad in a fucking ad. And it really frustrates me. And when people are willing to tolerate a decline in quality like that, it's the reason why you get what you fucking deserve. You get shit like this. So I'll just flip through it. It's very short. The credits here. Let's read the credits out. I'll just take this so I can see it real. Gretchen Felker Martin as writer. Can I get this interview? No, it's gonna be blurry. I'm sorry. Jeff Spokes, artist and cover artist, so the original cover. Becca Carey as letterer. You saw the lettering that Sven Stoffels was able to do by himself. I guess that this lettering requires like a special artist to do. They don't do anything interesting with the lettering. Arian Turturro, editor. Rob Levine as group editor. Brian Holland as the cover. Oh no, that's one of the other one. I got the variant by the Kyuyong Eom, which is the foil cover variant. He did a good job on his cover, I guess, but it wasn't even the best one. There was another one that I wanted, but it was like sold out everywhere. So all these fucking people involved to make what is effectively like a 10-page comic. So the first pages are cops blowing their brains out. There is one thing I'll give it credit for that's kind of cool. Okay, so if you look really closely, the cop that kills himself in the cell phone footage has double eyes. It's not even like double pupils. It's double retina. Supposedly the plot of this is something about the tower taking control of people. So, my note says something about the happening for cops. Because it specifically says that only cops are affected by this, which, I mean, I don't know why a tranny cares about cops. I guess because he's black. One thing I will give it credit for, because the Sven book was, black and white, and while it was like really excellent line art, I love the colors in this. The art is fantastic, but that's because it's coming from a professional comic book artist. The tranny had nothing to do with this, and the art is really quite excellent. The coloring is very nice as well. Okay, so I make a note. I don't understand this DC bullshit, and this was my really big takeaway, is that the Sven Stoffels comic is like deliberately, it's advertised as a mind-bending comic experience, right? Like it's supposed to like fuck with you and be crazy. And I understood what was happening in that a fuck of a lot better than I did in this comic. Cause it's like, what does Batman have to do with this? Why isn't this guy that's on the fucking cover, why isn't he doing something? His name is Red Hood, right? The book's named after him. What the fuck is he doing? Also, as I say here, I paid $70 for this. Why are they on a couch? You're a comic book writer. You can put your characters literally anywhere, doing anything. And where does he have his characters? He has them sitting on a fucking bed in his shitty studio apartment talking about their feelings. And it's like, that's not what I fucking paid for. There's never a scene where Butch Killigan's sitting on a fucking couch talking about his feelings. Actually, there is, but it's to establish that he loves his wife, and therefore that doesn't count. We got a nice little male sexual exploitation here where you can see his booty. Why that needs to be in the book, I don't know. Make it fair, I guess. Get that cheesecake in there. I do like New Orleans as a setting. New Orleans is a very cool town. It's very unique and American. Just in terms of its vibe, the French influence, a lot of that, just how everything looks, how it feels there. And they make it very clear that this is New Orleans because they talk about the levees. They have, I knew just looking at this building, like, oh, that's fucking Nolans. But now they talk about the levees. The guy has like a French last name that I won't try to pronounce and spare you the pain of that. But, very obviously New Orleans. I support that. New Orleans is not really well utilized despite how cool it is as a town. Some shit about Batman. I don't know what the fuck's going on here. There's a cool action sequence, I guess. I like how this is laid out. The artist did a good job. They're in like a cathedral for this, which is a cool place for a fight setting. But like I said, I have no idea what's going on. I like how the guy has like French tuffle thingies for his like chest. That's kind of cool. Lots of interesting designs and art here, but that's like not like there needs to be something fucking happening, but I understand. Just fighting, the tuffle man gets shot. I say cringe here because let's read this aloud, okay? Let me pull this up so I can read it. So, black woman walks inside her house. Mommy! And then he even writes, we made French toast and watch Mignons. You can't see that, but I promise you he spelled it French toast and watch Mignons. That's a Troon's idea of what children talk like. Again, he knows because he talks like that to his Discord kitten, I'm sure. And now we're back on a fucking couch in our kitchen talking about our feelings again. Half the fucking comic is just sitting around on a fucking couch. And then it's over. That's it. That's the entire book. It's like literally 10 pages long. And then we have a preview for Superman. And what's really crazy about this, and I hope I can do this justice, is the art for the Superman comic sucks. Like this shitty little comic that was made by a tranny that they're just doing for DEI points has a way better artist assigned to it. There's stuff in this where it's like the faces aren't filled out. They have like eyes that are missing colors or any kind of detail at all. And it's just super fucking lazy. And it's like I would never be enticed to buy this comic basically. Why? This dude's like painting with fucking watercolors like he's Bob Ross or something, making a fucking superhero comic. What the fuck, man? As if I could ever, like, you know, in Superman's like the lamest hero because he has no weakness. His weakness is that he's persecuted for xenophobia. That's his weakness. That and rocks. I mean, don't get me wrong, I like Silver, but I wouldn't call it a weakness. So then there's Batman v Deadpool Court, Children of the Round Table, Peacemakers on HBO Max, Black Canary of the... This thing is literally fucking half advertisements. What the fuck? So I hate this. I honestly hate this. This sucks. And it doesn't make any fucking sense. It was $70 fucking. The holofoil that I paid for was too fucking dark to be seen in normal lighting. There was no story that I could understand. Like, I literally read through it. I'm like, I don't know what the fuck's going on. Why is there Batman in this? What? Like, okay, New Orleans, cool costumes, but what the fuck is happening? The book, I read through that one before I even read through the first Butch Killigan again for a second read. And it was just like, I understand what's going on. I understand the commentary happening here. Like, I want to see what happens. It's long. It's much longer, but I read through the entire thing without any issue. It's like, what the fuck? So I asked, failed to ask this on my last stream, but I mentioned like, oh, anime people sit tight. I have a question. And then I never asked my question. Here is my question. Do mangas have advertisements like this? Do mangas have advertisements like in this piece of shit? And the animes informed me on the Kiwi forums, right, where I asked this question, or I remember to ask the question before this video. And they told me, kind of, it's a mixed bag. What happens is that there are things called Shonen or Shonen Daily, which is a like monthly magazine, and mangas are published in episodes, which, I mean, this is a fucking episode. You can't tell me that this is a full story. I don't know. There's no start, there's no finish, and nothing happens. So it's like, what the fuck? Like, literally, that's the best way to sum this up. Nothing starts, nothing happens, and then what the fuck? And then also there's like some interesting character designs and art happening in the middle. That's the best way to describe this. So this is an episode for sure. It would make sense if I had bought like the DC September episode, right? And it had one of these in it, and I specifically pulled that out because I was interested in looking at the tranny's work because I just got shit canned. I would have nobody but myself to blame if I spent $70 on a Zine or whatever and didn't like one of the episodes and didn't understand what was happening in it because I hadn't read the previous episodes. I was sold this as a complete book for $70. Like, I don't, like, I have, here, hold up. Check this out, chat. I bought this book on permaculture by Bill Mollison. This is a real book. This is like a spine. It's a fucking hardback book with a bunch of pages in it so I can do my gardening, right? Didn't cost $70. I bought a whole bunch of books that didn't cost $70. That's like, I feel insulted by this. Like, it's not even the tranny's fault. It's like, what the fuck is your business model? The Zine thing that Shonen Daily does seems a lot more sense. And then they told me that after the episodes are compiled into a full narrative, they will publish a book like this that has some length to it and has a start, middle, and end. And then if you buy this kind of book, which is a compilation of episodes from the shonen, then you'll get a real book with no advertisements in it at all, usually. So the Zine that you have a monthly subscription for will have advertisements, which makes sense if it's a magazine with different, especially with like different episodes inside compiled together. But then when you buy the soft cover book that's like the full story, you get no ads. That's much more acceptable than the way that I am fucking raped by Flow from Progressive as soon as I open my goddamn $70 collectible edition. You know what I mean? So that's my take. This is the first DC anything I've ever bought and read, and I gotta say, this is absolutely fucking disgusting. And people who are supporting this, and myself included, should be ashamed of themselves, because it's like, you're paying to encourage DC to just rape you. This is absolute fucking garbage. And what really sucks is that I checked Sven's Kickstarters for his books. He got like less than $20,000, I think, for both of them. Like 18,000 euros and then 15,000 euros for each of the campaigns. And he put out like a full product that he should be really proud of, and that I think is like really cool. And but this is what it costs more than both the books combined. And I bet you this fucking tranny got paid a lot more than Butch or Sven did for Butch Killigan. So it's really dire. It's really sad. I'm disappointed. I had no expectations, and I'm still disappointed by this piece of shit because it's not even funny bad. The way that the guy on the phone explained this to me is that he said they didn't order that many of them to begin with. And then he said that the ones that he had read before were just like generic cape shit slop. He said that they were utterly unremarkable. So my expectations were zero, and I'm still just like, I'm flabbergasted by how disrespectful the purchase was, how disrespectful DC was to me as a customer. And if I was a normal person and if I had just picked this up because I like saw this, and let's pretend that it was like bright and colorful, I'm like, oh, that's really cool. I want to own that because it's like such a cool poster or whatever. And I bought it and I read through it. I would never buy a DC comic again. I would never buy a comic again until with movies. I'm told 10 years down the road, oh yeah, you didn't watch that came out in 2012. It's actually really good. Then I'd go watch it. That would be my take with comic books. So if you like comics and you like supporting indie creators who give a shit, go buy Butch Killigan. Don't buy Vito's shit. Vito's books sucked ass. And this is proof, by the way, because Vito got $120,000 for his shit comic book, as if the color is going to save that piece of shit. Meanwhile, Sven puts out 4 times as much comic. It's all done by him, every part of it. He didn't offload it to random Mexicans. And he gets like, what? A third of that? And he didn't get involved in any drama. He didn't beat up on Black Comic Book Man to advertise his shit. Maybe he should. Maybe he should pick a fight with Black Comic Book Man. Apparently that's how you get the money. Because otherwise, nobody seems to give a fuck about the actual output. They give a fuck about the internet drama and what team they're fighting for. So, I don't know. I don't mean to be all fucking cringe and gay about this, but I know Sven, and he was really, I don't want to use the word desperate, but he really was like, he really wanted me to help him move units and sell his comics. Sorry, I bumped my camera there. Now you can see my coins in my floor. Hopefully not my feet. And I didn't help him that much because I was like, I'm not much of a salesman. And I don't want to do that. And I don't know if it would be good. And now I look at it a year later, way too late for it to matter. And I'm like, yeah, this is actually pretty good. And he tried, and nobody else seems to give a fuck anymore. So that's my review of the entire comic books industry and the entire manga industry, actually, for that matter. As it stands, as someone who knows nothing about any of those things and who has read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 comics, including Vito's, at this point in time. Thank you for watching. If you're a Gumroad or local subscriber, thank you very much. If you're watching this and you're not a subscriber, manattheinternet.locals.com. If you have a Rumble account, manattheinternet.gumroad.com. For everybody else, the Gumroad experience is apparently a lot easier and a lot better. So, manattheinternet.gumroad.com. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed. Take it easy. Bye-bye.